What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Turford, and today I have a very special Let's Play for you. Today, we are playing State of Decay 2. Now, basically what we're going to do is play the game for about 30 minutes or so, just to give you a taste of what State of Decay 2 is. Of course, you can find our preview, because we talk about this on the Game Moose podcast this week. Game-moose.com is where you find the Game Moose podcast every single week, including our State of Decay 2 preview that we did on the show this week. It's also where you'll find the review for this game. So I'm posting a review later this week. You can find that on game-moose.com as well. Check my Twitter at Ryan Turford for more details about when that's going to go live. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in, make a new community. So basically in State of Decay 2, you don't play as a set main character or anything like that. You play as basically a community of survivors. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to select a community to play as, and we're going to play the tutorial because it basically sort of sets up the story. So I want you all to be able to see that. I mean, it won't give you this option at the beginning of the game when you bring State of Decay 2 home for the first time. It gives you this option once you've started the game once already. Also, skipping the tutorial makes it so that you don't have this cool select that's about to come up, basically popping you in with random survivors, essentially. So basically, State of Decay 2, what it is basically it's a zombie survival game, much in the vein of something like Rust or Don't Starve or something like that. The original State of Decay is very similar to this. It's not like Dead Rising or a game like that, despite the fact that you have some goofy weapons in this game. So basically, starting at the beginning, if you start this game for the first time, you can select one of 4 tutorial scenarios. Basically, these are the characters that you're going to start with, essentially, and they all have different backstories and sort of different starting stats. So depending on what characters you select, they'll be better at certain things or not. And some of the characters are more balanced. For example, the Gabby and Jasmine here. Jasmine, it doesn't really have a lot of great survival stats, but she has quite a high chemistry ability starting off in the game, which you don't see too often. Where some of these other ones, like, again, you've got Jack, who's a really good mechanic, and those abilities come into play later when you're building certain buildings in your base, which we'll go over as we get there. So we're going to start with the brother and sister, so Zeri and Jack. Jesus Christ, I can't pronounce anything this morning. And let's see how this game starts. In a world. Sorry. Every time I see crazy shots like this, I'm always thinking of those trailers with the commentary is like, in a world where stuff happens and things do happen.
Keep moving. Keep moving. You gotta hurry.
All right, so basically, we've outrated some zombies. We made our way into this basically destroyed military camp, of course. I'm playing as Zara. You can't actually switch during the tutorial to another person, but the main conceit, the main hook of State of Decay 2 is that you can actually switch to any of the survivors. So again, as I mentioned before, you don't really have a main character. Your main character is your community. So basically, eventually, like, you're gonna have to take turns between different people because they'll get tired. So the combat basically is just third-person combat, and look, I'm stuck on Jack already. So it's third-person combat, but basically what we want to do is just whack zombies with baseball bats. You can also sneak up on zombies as well, and sort of do stealth kills as well, which you're going to see me do in a bit. But you also, what a big part of State of Decay 2 is actually searching for supplies. And basically what you do is you can walk up to any of these shining containers and sort of grab supplies from there. It takes time to search supplies, and you have the same standard animation. There aren't really unique animations for searching specific things, unfortunately. There we go. Got him stabbed. But you'll probably notice that there's a fast search option. So if I hold down the left bumper, it'll actually search faster, but it actually makes more noise. So it actually draws zombies to you. Look at that. That zombie just snuck up on me because he heard the noise. Got him with the knife there. All right, so let's search this other little toolbox. And again, we're mostly just grabbing all these containers in the tutorial, just sort of so we have some bandages and whatnot. Again, all the weapons in this game have durability. So as you can tell, my baseball bat has totally shattered. Again, like the wooden baseball bats or anything wooden tends to actually break pretty easily. So for the most part, you're going to want to look for something that's not made out of wood. We got some more zombies. But you do have, I'm going to show you the inventory screen here. So you do always have what's referred to as a close combat weapon. And that's actually different for every survivor. So hers in particular is an old screwdriver. But you will notice that there's no durability on it, whereas basically all of your melee weapons have sort of different stats, and same for the ranged weapons that you have as well. They have max durability on them, so you can actually repair them with parts down the line if you want to do that, or you can just find new weapons in the environment. Although eventually, as you get farther into the game, weapons become more and more hard to come by. Just like supplies, as you typically run out of supplies, because as you loot items in the world, they don't respawn or anything like that. So once I've looted these items once, that's it. So the longer your game goes, the harder it is to find weapons or supplies or things your community definitely needs.
Look at that. Even after this long, people kept hoping.
We got a fancy
to find
banner here.
families again.
There's even a note. If you walk up here, you can do the same searching animation just to look at this note that's on the wall. This kills me. I'm like, man, can't you just look at it? Like, seriously? I mean, you can't even use anything with the. You can take the note if you want to, but it's like it doesn't really serve you any purpose. You can't trade it with anyone or break it down for supplies or anything, so it's not really useful. All right, let's see if we can stealth kill a zombie here. As there are a little more of them here. So basically, you just have to crouch behind someone and then hold down the right trigger and then press X, and that will allow you to stealth kill. So there we go. We're doing a little more damage now that we're using the tire iron as opposed to the screwdriver. That's why it's always handy. Like, always handy to have backup weapons in your inventory if you can, or things like that. So we're gonna run into this building here, and this is where we're gonna start to get our first story event. Again, the story itself isn't really like a magnum opus or anything like that. I mean, I don't think it's really meant to be. There are story beats throughout the game, so not just at the beginning here, but later on, that you sort of always have to run into. But for the most part, you're sort of making your own story with this game, so that's kind of cool.
Get it off me!
Oh my God, Jack's in trouble. We gotta save Jack, bruh. We're in a total whack this zombie. I'm as someone who is a connoisseur of different video game flashlights, the video game flashlight in this game, not that great. I mean, it only illuminates a small area, and a lot of times, especially when it's dark out, because it gets dark, there's a day-night cycle in this game, the flashlight doesn't do well at night at all. It's not really a great flashlight. So you can break through locked doors like that just by mashing X. It's pretty cool.
I guess even a zombie apocalypse.
We don't really want to take this note here. We're gonna drop it. All right, so I'm also going to show you the skills here. So again, this is sort of something we saw at the beginning. So Zeri has, first of all, there's 4 main skills. So you've got cardio, which affects your stamina. You've got wits, which are basically finding items in the world. It's sort of your luck chance, but also it affects your stealth ability against zombies. You also have your fighting skill. Your fighting skill basically improves your health and sort of your melee combat skills, essentially. And then shooting, of course, just you aim better, basically. And each one of those, as you level them up, you actually can basically choose branching paths for them. So, for example, the shooting skill, you can sort of upgrade it where you can do different things with it. Like the cardio skill, you can have it so that you can either run longer or you can carry more stuff. So it's always good to sort of think about what type of characters you're trying to build here. Of course, we're just finishing off all these zombies on the ground here. Again, I actually really like the progression system. It's not too... It's pretty simple and bare bones, but at the same time, I almost like it about that. Like, I feel like there's a lot of management for your community already. And I feel like... And I like the fact that it's not thought into it. For the most part, it's just trying to have you sort of figure out your fantasy here. So basically what we're trying to do is look for pills for Jack because he's not feeling so good. And I don't think this first aid box is going to have any. We got bandages, but surprisingly bandages don't work on fevers, folks. That's how this works. So new to State of Decay 2 is something called the Blood Plague, which we're going to hear about in a second. So the Blood Plague, basically, rather than you just being bitten by a zombie and then turning into a zombie, that's not how it works in this game. Essentially, similar to The Walking Dead, everyone in the world has been infected by the zombie disease, essentially. So when you die, regardless of how you die, you actually turn into a zombie. But there is another way to become a zombie, which is the Blood Plague. So the Blood Plague is passed on to you by certain zombies and is contagious. So if you have a survivor with the Blood Plague, you essentially have to quarantine them from the rest of your group in order to cause the Blood Plague to not spread, and can only be cured with the Blood Plague cure, which is pretty cool. Like, I like that mechanic because, again, you don't want every zombie bite to result in someone in your group becoming a zombie. You'd rather have something like I much prefer a system like this where it's if you're up against a certain type of zombie, it can cause a zombie outbreak, essentially.
Oh fuck, I feel terrible. I just want to lay down and die.
Hon, you don't look so good.
My brother was bitten. I think it's infected. Got any medicine?
I've seen this before. You need something special.
Oh, geez, we gotta go find the doctor. The doctor knows all about the Blood Plague. So basically, this is sort of the tutorial, sort of introducing you to the Blood Plague itself. So we're gonna sort of jump over this obstacle here and go see the doctor, who will have a little quest for us. Now, one thing to note is that depending on who your starting party is, the doctor and the army official will be different people. So this time around, it's Sheridan who's the doctor, and he's similar to another doctor called Brown, who is in a different party. And basically, they have different skills associated with them. And as far as I can tell, they're not randomly generated, although I haven't experimented enough to find out. I've started the game 4 times, one as each of the different survivors, but I haven't actually tried starting as the same survivors before.
Maybe not. Hey, you, come here.
So we're gonna go in the back here, grab the supplies we need that include like things. Now I know there's not zombies around, so we can just make as much noise as we want at this point.
We found a cure that works if you use it soon after infection. The army took our lab when they left, but they didn't get everything. Did you find it?
So we're like, here you go. Here's the Blood Plague samples.
Damn. I'll need an infirmary to culture a new dose.
Hey, Doc, shit's getting bad out there. Thanks to all the noise, the Zeds are swarming the perimeter. This camp is done for. It's time for us to go. All of us.
She's got a southern drawl.
If you stay, I gotta stay. Then we both die. Jamie's gone. But this kid still needs your help.
Okay, fine. Just give me a second.
Make it quick. We don't have much time.
Before we go, I need your help. That thing in the cage?
But now it's a Blood Plague zombie. So basically, these are the Blood Plague zombies. You'll run into them in the world, and they're the ones that spread the Blood Plague, essentially. You basically have a meter that fills up. Basically, once it fills up completely, you are infected with the blood plague, and then like you basically have a time limit to cure it essentially. So he wants us to kill this blood zombie that he was trying to cure, but unfortunately
sorry.
they sort of ran out of time as
I hope you're in a better place
zombies
now.
are going crazy.
Listen, I know we've had our problems, but please, don't let me turn into one of those things.
You're my brother. I have your back. Always.
Thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger.
All right, so basically, this is where we make a key decision in the game. So basically, you can start in one of 3 areas, and eventually, you can research the ability to travel between different areas, but you always start with one in particular. And they're all pretty different from each other. So there's a town in the foothills, which is more of a kind of like a suburban area. It's green grass and a bunch of stuff. There's the plateau, which is sort of, you're in the middle of the desert and it's quite hilly, which can make traversal kind of annoying. But at the same time, you have some pretty unique settlements there. And then, of course, there's the town in the valley. So the town in the valley is sort of a mixture of the two. It's kind of hilly, but for the most part, it's big suburban areas. So we're actually going to go to the valley and show that off. Basically, the default option, if you don't choose not to do the tutorial, you will always start in the foothills, essentially. But it's kind of cool that the game gives you that option if you run through the tutorial scenario like this. You also start with more survivors as well. So if you choose to skip the tutorials, you start with 3 randomly generated survivors. Whereas here we actually have 4 at our disposal.
Anything.
Here we go. We got title logo. We're going to drive on through to the valley to go check out our new settlement. It was cool because we still have time. I can show you some of the base building stuff, which is kind of cool. So one of the things I really like about State of Decay 2, as opposed to some other survival, like other zombie games, I really like the survival aspect. Again, if you at home watching this really like games like Subnautica or Don't Starve, even Metal Gear Survive, which wasn't a perfect game, but I actually didn't mind the survival elements of that game, then I think State of Decay might really be up your alley, especially if you played the first one. First of all, if you've never played the original State of Decay, it's on Game Pass, so you should check it out there. The Year 1 Survival Edition. It originally came on Xbox 360, now on Xbox One, with a bunch of improvements. And it's really cool. So we've arrived at our destination. So what's going to happen is we're going to go find our new home. So basically, this is where you start. So you always start in the same area, like the same place, wherever you choose, essentially. So we're going to go find the first house that we have. But you actually can move houses throughout the game if you find another house plot, which is pretty cool.
For once, the army and I agree. It's time to get off the road and find a home. Someplace we can build what we need to keep your brother from dying.
All right, so here we go. So we got to go find a house. So let me just show you the map first of all. So this is just 1/3 of the game. The map is pretty big because even if the home is just over there, it's going to take me a little while to walk there. So I'm going to mark it on my map here so you can see that it's 247 meters away. And we're going to sort of just do a little jog here. Running, you can actually run by holding down the left bumper like so, but it really makes a lot of noise. So it actually attracts a lot of zombies. Unfortunately, you can't take any of these cars because they are totally busted up. There are cars in this game that you can grab, just like in the first State of Decay. However, their cars are much more sparse this time around, and it really encourages you to find fuel cans, which you can find usually at gas stations or any other buildings designated to include fuel, essentially. You also need to repair cars as well by finding car repair kits or building an auto shop in your home, which is one of the buildings you can build. You can really customize your home in this game, which is something I actually really like. So if you don't like sort of the basic layout of with the facilities it works with, you can always build some new stuff. And your survivors as well will also chime in on that, because they will, depending on who you have in your party, you actually will have certain survivors who want certain buildings to be built, like workshops or laboratories or gardens. It just really depends on what batch of survivors you have. In fact, let me just show you real quick. So basically, you'll see here, if I look at basically my traits, essentially some of these traits will actually dictate my person's behavior, and will sort of influence what type of buildings they sort of want in our base, or what type of direction they want
That could be a
our
good spot
community
for us
to
to
go,
relocate
essentially.
to.
And if you don't follow that, sometimes it can lead to fights, or it can lead to them betraying your group. So there's all kinds of really interesting dynamics at play, which I really, really like. Especially because a lot of these survivors that you get are randomly generated with some of those traits. Some of them aren't, but a lot of them happen to be. So it's pretty cool to figure that. So it's sort of explaining how to secure a building. So basically what we need to do is sort of explore all the little areas marked on the map, and then basically kill all the zombies on the map.
I wonder who the last people were who lived here.
Sneak behind this woman here. Zoop. Oh, come on. You're just going to kick him and then walk away? Like, what the fuck is that? All right. So let's go over here. Sort of explore this area. Blood plague zombie.
Better not let that one get back up.
So I think we've got most of the zombies down. For the most part, it's sort of exploring the different parts here. Also, depending, also all the different areas have basically the same layouts as far as the house goes. They all look like this to start with, but then, as I mentioned, you can unlock different homes throughout the game as you play, and the different homes are actually a lot different than this. Like, for example, the home I currently have in my main save is actually a fast food. Well, no, it's actually more like a truck stop. So you have like a big restaurant that we sort of converted into a home with a lot of different facilities, and it's pretty cool how you can do that. But there are other ones you can find that there's a hospital and a hotel and some other stuff. And again, it depends on what area you go to as to what homes you're going to have access to. So we gotta go kill the last remaining zombies here before we can go settle. Oh jeez. Look at that. I can't even jump over can't even jump over a fence. That's one of those things in this game. Unfortunately, you get stymied by walls and whatnot, and it can be kind of annoying. Also, it doesn't help that I have I have my camera covering my radar. I feel like that was not a good move. Look at that. I tried to hug him. I'm like, man, you don't have to kill us. We just hug it out. All right, so we're going to go up here and we're going to settle our new home, and then I'm going to show you sort of how base building works, because we're actually going to need to build a specific facility once we've claimed the site, essentially. So again, this goes over the fact that there are 10 slots in total, as well as these are the included facilities, including some trash, which everyone loves trash, right? But you got bunk beds, you got a master bedroom, you got parking. We're to confirm this. So again, this will be important for when you find other homes in your area, because you really need to figure out, okay, does it have all the slots that I want to build my base? We're going to talk to the doctor here, and basically he's going to tell us to build our first building.
Make the cure. Unfortunately, we don't have all the resources we need to build
So
it.
what we need to do is travel to the cell tower, but I'm going to show you this real quick. So this is the base building screen, so it allows us to build new additions to our base. So we can actually build buildings here. However, we don't actually have any building supplies, which is why we need to go look for stuff. So, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to, while we're out, we're going to repair the master bedroom. This will allow us to actually use the master bedroom and actually have enough beds for people. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mark the watchtower on the map, and then we're going to go do some scouting. Scouting in this game works very similarly to the original State of Decay. Basically, you'll come to a tower or something else, some other structure. You can also find billboards or water towers or anything like that, and sort of scout around the area. So as you can see, big wide open spaces in this particular area. It's a little bit hilly because, as I mentioned, you have to sort of climb up there, but it's not like the plateau area where there's some crazy hills. And unfortunately, with a lot of hills, as I'm going to demonstrate here, you can't really climb any of this stuff. You really have to walk around a lot of it stuff. So basically picking your routes is very, very important, and sort of figuring out the layout so you'll have a better time exploring a lot of the open world. So we're going to climb to the top of the tower, and then we're going to scout for building supplies as well as for meds and other things. This is basically how you determine what buildings include what.
I better take a break.
Also, you can hold down the sprint button to climb up and down ladders quicker if you want to. So again, this is sort of explaining how surveying works. Again, it has a little bar that fills up, indicating how many more buildings you have to survey. So all we do is sort of hold down the left trigger and take a look around and see what we can find. And again, this will all populate on my map as well once this is finished. So it'll basically say, so if I'm looking for something with food, or if I'm looking for carts or anything like that, we'll be able to see all that there. So we're going to sort of just grab all of these areas and sort of go from there. But I really like the environment of the valley. This isn't actually where I started. I actually started in the plateau, which is actually a very similar area to the original State of Decay, actually, where that was very much not in the middle of the desert, but it was very hilly. It was sort of a dry climate. And that's sort of where I started there. Whereas the other two areas you have, both this area and the foothills, basically have are very green, very lush environments. A little more appeasing to the eyes than just the desert or the plateau, essentially. So there's the one thing I want to mention. So over there, you see the swine and bovine, which is a plague cart. So plague carts are basically your main objective in this game. Essentially, what you want to do is destroy all the plague carts, and that sort of is what sort of leads you to the end game in this. Where basically, once you clear out all the plague hearts in this area, no more zombies generate, which is kind of cool. So that's sort of the goal, the overall goal you're trying to work towards. However, they are incredibly tough, and something that you do a little bit late, like as you get new equipment, as a lot of fire, you really need stuff like Molotov cocktails or grenades, a lot of heavy hitting equipment, which just there isn't a lot of in this environment. But one of the other cool things that you can do as well is you can actually, speaking of that, is if you need to get a specific item in this game, and you can't find it in the environment, you can actually trade with other survivors. And there isn't really, there isn't gold or cash in this game. There's some form of currency called influence. And what influence does is it basically sort of is like the overall currency for everything you do in this game. And you can be earned by doing specific missions or helping survivors, completing quests. Just killing a number of zombies as well can earn you influence.
No one here but us, I guess.
Also, earning influence is actually directly tied to each individual survivor's leveling path. So basically, as you earn more influence, you can eventually become what's known as a hero of the group, which then can allow your character to be promoted to the group's leader. Now, once you've been promoted to leader, that sort of dictates the path that your main main quest line sort of goes down. And there's 4 different types. So there's the sheriff, which is all about helping people. There is the warlord, which basically is, as you can guess, just all about, basically sort of lording, basically developing weapons and whatnot. You want to sort of fight pretty much anyone you come across. You can also have the builder. Builder is allows you to build specific facilities, and as well as sort of your main objective is sort of to help sort of rebuild society. And then last but not least, you have the trader, which is all about, again, just like the sheriff, sort of helping other survivors, but essentially you are trying to basically just trade supplies to everyone, and that's sort of your main goal, is make sure that everyone's well stocked. So as you can see, if I go to my inventory here, that basically there is weight in this game as we get attacked by a zombie while I'm showing you this. So basically, your weight is affected by how much stuff you have, obviously. So as you're carrying these items called rucksacks basically are what give your population additional supplies. So this, for example, contains a large bundle of building supplies. And there are ones for all the different major supplies in this game. So food, medical supplies, ammo, and then fuel. And that's sort of what keeps your base going. Because likewise, it looks like we're going to have to go to go looking for food pretty soon. That zombie over there, as we saw in the tutorial, is a screamer. We do not really want to go touch him right now because he will scream and then tons of other zombies will come and kill us, and it'd be very sad. So since we're over encumbered, we can actually, it affects our walking speed, but also it affects the amount of stamina we use. Stamina is the blue bar on the screen there. So basically it affects all of our melee combat as well as our ability to run away from enemies and whatnot. So it's always good to watch your encumbrance. One of the cool things, though, if you do have a car, though, you can actually put all of your, put items in the trunk of the car. And now normally you can only carry 1 rucksack per person, but if you have a car, you can actually put as many rucksacks as you want in the trunk, and each car has a certain amount of trunk space, essentially. So some of the cars you can put up to like 6 to 8 rucksacks in there and sort of carry that back to your base with you, which would then put you over the top for supplies for a while anyways. So now basically this is going to go over the building, the base building. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to construct an infirmary here in the backyard. So again, these are all the different buildings we can build. And again, some of them you need large plots, or basically you need, that comes into play with, remember how I showed you Jack's abilities? He has abilities that allow him to build certain buildings for our community that we wouldn't have access to if we didn't have someone like him there, which is kind of cool. However, while you're building buildings, what ends up happening is your zombie threat level basically increases. So basically, what that means is your building, your main community can become under attack by zombie hordes, essentially. And the likelihood of that happening is basically determined by how loud your facility is. So basically what we need to do now is to go find more supplies here. Oh, what we could do as well, we're carrying a lot of stuff on us, so we can actually just deposit a lot of that stuff into the base.
This infirmary is exactly what we need to keep my...
And again, this community supply locker can be shared across everyone else in our community, so we can sort of share items, especially when we have other people taking over. So what we're going to do, any member of the blood plague, as I mentioned, can spread it. So what we want to do is we want to actually put someone in our infirmary and basically quarantine them. Also, this it prolongs the effects of blood plague, because once that meter reaches all the way to the end, they die essentially. But to do that, it actually requires a large number of medical supplies, which is why now you're seeing our med stocks being quite low.
Hey, how's it going?
See you around.
Hello. I see you folks are my new neighbors. Could one of you come by to help me out with something?
Whoever that is, they probably know a lot about this area. We could use a friend like that.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go meet with Oscar to find more meds. He's at this base down here. So again, as it mentions, there are other humans in this game. Humans, in my opinion, are some of the toughest enemies in this game if you actually fight the humans, which of course means you don't really want to start trouble if you don't have to. So for the most part, we kind of want to be as friendly as we can with a lot of people whenever possible, because otherwise it can lead to some shit. But again, finding other humans can sort of basically give us different quests. There are a lot of side quests in this game. And a lot of side quests have to do with recruiting members to your community, or also to unlock certain things. So it's always good to watch out for that. So let's go over, talk to Oscar, because it sounds like he's got a lead on some medical supplies. Also, we're walking really, really slowly.
Hey there.
So again, Oscar just hangs out in a house by himself.
I found a couple of things while I was out scavenging.
So essentially what he's going to have us do is come and clear a zombie infestation. So as the game suggests, zombie infestations are basically like when groups of zombies just come together in a house. And they can be quite troublesome, especially because if you don't destroy zombie infestations quickly over time, they will spread to more and more buildings, essentially, which then lowers your group's morale because there are so many more zombies around. And when morale's low, that's when you start to see more arguments between your group members, which then can lead more and more to some of your group's members abandoning ship, or, you know, betraying the group and basically just raiding you for supplies and then leaving, essentially. Bam! Tire iron to the face. So there we go. We got that little fast food place. We're going to come down and kill the swarm of zombies that's taken over the fast food place.
Okay, we're getting close. If you can, take out the screamer first. Otherwise, it'll just draw...
So essentially, every zombie infestation will always have at least one screamer. There are other types of zombies later in the game. There are feral zombies, which sort of are on all fours and try and outflank you. They move very fast. There are juggernauts, which are giant zombies that take a ton of ammo just to kill and do a ton of damage to you, essentially. And then you will see other types of zombies in infestations as well. It just depends on how far into the game you are. Oh. Looks like the fun's already started. And of course the screamer saw us, because Oscar just jumped in and fucking started wrecking shit. One thing about the screamers though is they can't actually fight back because they don't have any arms. So you don't need to do about that. So basically this explains influence, which is what I went over earlier. It's the form of currency. So let's talk to Oscar.
Blood plague.
So basically, one of the things in this game is that most of the other survivors don't actually know that there's actually a cure for the blood plague. Because it was invented by our doctor friend. So telling it to some group members can cause them to come over to your side. Also, sometimes when you tell people that you have a cure for the blood plague, bad
wish I'd
things
have met you
happen
folks a
because
month ago. Some of my
they'll
friends
want
might
to know
still
what
be
it
alive.
is, and if you refuse to help them, that they
We
get
don't
very
actually have the
angry
cure
and
on
usually
hand
causes
just
them to
yet.
pull a gun on you.
We need to gather one more ingredient before we can craft it.
What do you need? Maybe I can help.
This may sound crazy, but we need tissue samples from plague zombies. We have a few samples from this army lab back at the refugee camp, but the doc says we need more.
So you need plague zombies, huh? I can point you in the right direction. Goodbye.
All right, so now we're gonna hop back into this building and sort of raid it for supplies, essentially. And then this is sort of where it's gonna lead us to going to our very first plague heart and sort of destroying that and sort of getting a whole bunch of samples from there. Ooh, that's a very nice weapon.
Now that's
Of course, we
worth
got
scavenging
a
for.
M1. It's a pretty cool gun. Again, guns are pretty hard to come by in this game, so you sort of have to stock up on them. You really only want to use them when you're in a bind, essentially. So we got some ammo. Let's see, there's got to be other ones. There's one around the corner here. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually
I am sure glad
Drop
these
this
aren't
rucksack.
usually gone.
And then because we actually want to carry the medical supplies back to our base with us, you actually can. We could actually come back though, because similar to something like Skyrim, none of the items that you drop in this game disappear. So you're actually always able to come back to them if you want to. I'm just gonna always place the marker there so we know about how far away we are. So again, even though I don't have enough space for it now, I will remember, oh, go back to that weapon store because there's some more ammo there when we're running low on it. And basically the when the ammo is really being used is not so much by you, the community member, it's more all about when you're, how prepared you are for zombie attacks. Because that's the ammo your community members will draw upon, not necessarily the ammo that you put in your supply bank or whatever you have each person equipped with. And we got a very slow moving zombie here. We're just gonna walk around him. Boop, 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 boop. If you walk pretty slowly, enemies tend not to notice you in this game. You don't even necessarily have to do the ye old crouch if you don't want to. Again, as you use your different abilities, similar to Skyrim or any other Bethesda game, you will use your ability. You will level your abilities. Sorry, as you go. So again, our building doesn't really have any power, so once the lights go out, they go out. You can light some candles later, but for the most part, that's how it works. Anyways, that's going to sort of end our State of Decay 2 Let's Play, because even though we went a little bit long there, I wanted to show y'all at least a little bit of about this game. Again, this is where it starts to sort of ramp up more and more, because we're still in kind of the game's tutorial. Anyways, let me know what you think about State of Decay 2 in the comments below. Again, you can find the review for this up on game-moose.com later this week, where I'm going to tell you all about this game. I have a lot to talk about because I'm actually pretty far. I'm about 15 hours into the game, so I have some things to say. Again, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. Hit me up. That's TURFORD. Again, you can find the Game Moose podcast every single week, starting on Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time over at game-moose.com as well. Anyways, that's going to do it. I'm Ryan Turford, and thanks for watching.